Hello and welcome. For China Solved, I'm Andrew Hubert, and this is the China Negotiator, episode 32, 5 Facts About Midterm Results. 5 facts about midterm results and the US-China trade war. Number 1, results did in fact favor Democrats. Number 2, China was not a factor in campaigns or voting. Number 3, midterms will have little to no impact on China policy. Number 4, bipartisan support on China is not going to prevent a rancorous, ugly debate. And number 5, the entire escalation or diffusing of the US-China conflict is going to be personality-driven completely. Let's look at each one in a little bit more detail. Number 1, yes, this was a repudiation to Trumpism on some level. The count was slow and kind of lumpy, so the results came in slow, but when they did come in, this was a black eye for the Trump administration. That is not a political judgment, but this is going to be a factor later. Number 2, no, China was barely mentioned. And anyone who's been to China or has spent time in China and has tried to tell their friends and family that second witty China story knows most people have a pretty short attention span when it comes to things Chinese. Yes, everyone says it's important, that there is bipartisan agreement on that. Don't look for common sense or a public mandate to influence the outcome of this escalating conflict. But now, however, unions are going to be involved in the mix, and that is just going to make things messier. Number 3, the midterms will probably not matter much in terms of policy. Congress doesn't have direct input on trade policy anyway, but even if they did, Congress is going to be dealing with a long list of issues. They are going to be dealing with, / yelling about, healthcare, immigration, and I think the national debt is going to skyrocket into the top 3. After that, there's going to be climate issues. Then there's going to be number 5, which I am euphemistically calling process issues, which is a nice way of saying investigating the president, the families, fighting about this, fighting about that, subpoenas. Yeah, it's going to be busy and it's going to be messy. Number 4, broad bipartisan agreement on China-related goals is not going to get in the way of a dumpster fire of a debate when it comes to anything having to do with China. It would be very unrealistic to think that just because the Democrats and the Republicans both have a problem with China Inc., that there's going to be some sort of bipartisan agreement here. They don't do bipartisan agreement anymore, so there's always going to be a rancorous debate, even if they agree in principle. But it doesn't really matter because of number 5. And number 5 is that the timing and pace and tenor of this trade war is all personality driven. There are no procedural checks or balances in any meaningful way on either side. If either Trump or Xi wants a Cold War, then we're going to have a Cold War. The opposite, however, is not necessarily true. De-escalating is going to be much trickier. Conflict takes on a life of its own, and climbing down from these things is not always a simple matter. Final word. So here's our assignment and risk assessment for today. On one level, the trajectory of this trade war is going to be based on cold calculations about national interest versus risk of global economic collapse. But on another level, perhaps a more significant level, it depends on the ability of Trump and Xi to forge some sort of personal understanding. Thanks very much. I will talk to you again soon.